Okay, today's session is about basic Huawei router and switch configurations. But before we jump into configuration, I would like to do a little recap. That is, I would like to explain some concepts so that we move together in the configuration parts. The agenda that we'll be discussing is displayed there. We look the overview, actually the introduction. We look some concepts so that in the configuration part we'll be aware of what is being configured. And then there is simple topology designing, basic switch and router configuration. That will be our last part. The simulator that we are going to use is called ENSP, stands for Enterprise Network Simulation Platform. It has got different versions. The simulator just helps us to design a topology and do some commands and troubleshooting issues. Before we proceed further, let's see the simulator that is used to configure the Huawei devices. It's just opening. Let's wait a little bit. So this is our simulator. It's called ENSP. We'll use it to configure the Huawei devices like switches, firewall, router, etc. So this is the first interface once you learn this software. In order to go to the workspace or to the place where you can put our device, where you can connect those devices with cable and start configuring those devices, we can place this button here, which is written new topo, or we can use the button that is placed at the very left corner here, also is written new topo. So either of the two buttons will lend you to the same interface where I'll put your device and start configuring those devices. I'll place just this new topo button, and this is our workspace where I can do some configuration. We can troubleshoot if it's happened. We have a topology which does not function per our requirements. I hope all of us we see the simulator. We'll use this simulator to design a lab and we'll do some basic configuration later. So let's proceed with our presentation. Another part which you should look is the operating system. The Huawei's devices are running a certain operating system which is called VRP. Actually, I hope all of us we know that any computing device or smart device has two parts, the hardware parts and the software parts. Huawei devices system software or the operating system is called VRP, stands for Versatile Routing Platform. So all the Huawei devices are running this operating system, and they do support things like routing, switching, security, unified management, wireless LAN and wireless WAN, and UTM. We'll see this concept later. How does this operating system support these concepts? A good example before we proceed is a router. A router is a device that is doing or is performing something is called routing. Why does it perform such a function? It's because there is operating system which has been given some instructions and it enables a router to do such a function which is routing. So we will look one function after the other in the later sessions, so don't worry about that. There are versions of this VRP. We have version 1, version 2, version 3, version 5, and version 8. The current versions that are used or that are running in Huawei devices are version 5 and version 8. Version 8 is running to those devices which perform advanced features. So they have advanced capabilities. And below are some examples of devices that are running version 5. Devices like S series switches and AR series switches are running version 5. And the devices that are running version 8, we have some NE series routers and some CE series switches. The command to verify or to see the version that is running in a device is display version. So let's see the version that is running in some devices in our simulator, so that to be conversant with the concept that I've talked, or with the concepts that we are discussing. So I'll just open this interface there and design a simple topology. Let's take this router and let's take one switch, and also let's take some end devices. Actually, this is our simulator and has different devices, as you see, and there are cables there, so you will see later how we connect. Each and everything will be clear later, so just be patient. Let's take the end devices, place them to the workspace. Let's connect those devices. Just use the auto option. So this is our topology that we'll be playing with. I'll just explain one devices after the other. This is the router. Actually, there are 3 devices which perform routing, and this one is switch. Of course, I take a layer 3 switch, of which it can perform switching in routing, but for our case, we just use it to perform the so-called switching. And these are end devices. They are layer 7 devices. The results there at the application layer. So this is our topology which we will be configuring it. So before we configure or we do any commands to Huawei devices, we should start them. They do recommend that you start one by one, but if your PC is good enough, or is capable, or its processing power is good, RAM is good, you can start all of them together. So I'll just start one by one. So just like click and start the device. Let's wait. The device is starting. Let's wait a little bit. I don't know what is happening, but the device is starting. Yeah. So what I would like to do here is just to show you the version that are running these devices. As we said before, the AR series router are running version 5. So this all here are running version 5. And also we say the S series switches are running version 5. So all these 2 switches here are running version 5, and also these routers here are running version 5. So let's see by using a command. So just click your device to open a terminal. So this is the terminal. The device is booting. Let's wait for it to finish the booting process. It undergoes some process. I hope all of us we know what is the concept which is called booting. So let's wait a little bit. So let me start the switch also. It still undergo the process which is booting. Yeah, this is our device has booted. Yeah, I would like to show you the version, and we said the commands that display the version is called display version. So as we see, is learning version 5. Likewise, let's see the switch is still booting. Okay, but I guess, or I hope you have seen the version of this AR series. Likewise, the version of this S series will be the same as we saw to our presentation. Yeah, let's move to another thing, which is management of Huawei's device. Before I'll explain this concept, I would like to give you a little statements that will help you to understand the concept. There is one question that we can ask: how and where do we put the commands in all the instructions? The answer to this question is either using CLI or web services, and that is why we say we can manage our device using the CLI or the web system, which is the GUI. So in order to put the commands into your device, you either use CLI or you either use GUI. There are some devices that are using the GUI to configure them, but most of the device or most of the configurations that we'll be doing will be using the CLI. The CLI is one of the means that is so helpful. It gives the power a network administrator or a network engineer because of its flexibility. So in order to be a good network engineer, you should know how to use the CLI. So I think that is clear. Let's jump to another thing. So how do we access the CLI? To our case, you will not deal about GUI. That's why I jump direct to CLI. So how do we access this CLI? We can access it using a console cable, or we can access it using mini USB port, telnet, or a telnet, which is also called SSH. The console cable and mini USB cable are used whenever you are directly sitting closer to your device. So you just plug the cable to the device like switch or router, and then you plug the cable to your laptop. In your laptop, there must be a software that is called terminal emulator, like PuTTY, Secure CRT, Hyperterminal. Yeah, and then you emulate your command C to the device. But if you are very far apart from your device, and this we call it remote access of a network device, you can use a protocol called telnet or a protocol called SSH, a secure sharing protocol. And to use this secure sharing protocol alternate, you should do some initial configuration. So basically, in order to access your device remotely, you should first configure some parameters by using either console cable or mini USB cable. The mini USB cable is used whenever there is no console port on your PC. Yeah, the next concept is about the so-called user interfaces. Yeah, as we have seen there is something which is called console cable, and there is something which is called telnet or SSH. The term that is used to represent telnet and SSH is VTY, Visual Type Terminal. So instead of saying telnet or SSH, we can just call them VTY. So there is something which is called user interface. There are two types: console user interface and the DC VTY user interface. We have seen that in order to configure our device using CLI, we can either use console cable or this VTY user interfaces. The term user interfaces just means that you can log into your device by using either console, which we call it a user interface, or you can use the so-called VTY. So once you hear about the term user interface, they are just a line, or they are just something which help you to go to your device and put some commands. So if we are using a console cable, then we will be placed in what is called console user interface. And if we are logging or we are accessing our device remotely, we will place it to the interface that is called VTY interface. We'll see those later, and the verification command there, we'll see it later. So let's be patient a little bit, we'll see it later. Also, another thing is called user levels. There are different levels actually. Once you are in user interface like console, or you are in a user interface like VTY, there are different levels or privilege levels. Like they give you the permissions. We'll see them later also. These levels are divided into level 0, level 1, level 2, and level 3 up to level 15. Once we say user level 0, it means there are some commands that this user can apply. If we give a privilege to a user, 0 privilege, we limit him or we limit her to put some few commands. And the name to this level is called the VST level. Also, we have level 1, which is called the monitor level. We have level 2, which is called the configuration level. We have level 3 to 15, which is called management levels. And if a user has 0 level, they can do some commands at 0 levels. If a user has level 1, he can do the commands that are performed at level 0 and the commands that are performed at level 1. Likewise, if a user is given a privilege of 2, he or she can perform 0, 1, and 2 commands. I'll just demonstrate this when we do some configurations. We'll see it deep once we are doing the configurations. There is something which is called the authentication methods. The term authentications is just in a plain English, is just mean that you are allowed to get in to somewhere. You are authenticated. You are allowed to get in to somewhere to do something. So before you are allowed to go there, there are some things that you should perform so that you can be allowed. And these are passwords or username. So there are different methods that we can use to configure our devices, these authentications parameters like username or password. The first method is called type A mode, of which a user is required to have a username and a password. The second one is called a password authentication. Here a user is just required to put the passwords, and then he'll or she will be allowed to get in to do his or her things. And the last one is non-authentication mode or method. This, as the name indicates, there is nothing a user is required to put so that to get in to do some configuration. And by far it's not recommended because of security issues. In all the authentication methods, we can configure the levels. Yeah, we have level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3 to 15. So in all the authentication method, there is a chance to configure those levels. We will see this concept later when we do a lab. There is the so-called delay mechanism in Huawei device. If the first login fails, the user can log in again 5 seconds later. The delay time is increased by 5 seconds every time a login failure occurs. So the second login will be delayed by, or there will be a delay of 10 seconds. Another thing is the so-called CLI views. As we have seen that in order to do your configuration, you can do it either in GUI or in CLI. And we have said that the CLI is the best way to do configurations. The CLI has got some views, so we'll see that there is a certain view where we can do a little command C or some few command C, but if we navigate to another view, we can do more command C. And as we have seen, there is something which is called the levels. So it's like the same thing. We'll learn later how to navigate from one view to another view. But in Huawei, there are 4 views to study. The first view is called user view, where you can learn some status and statistics of the device. You will see it. There is system view, we configure a device or system parameters. Here is where we will be doing most of our configurations that will be affecting the device. And there is something which is called interface view. Here we configure interface parameters like IP address. Yeah, IP address, we put the IP, like speed, duplex, etc. To go to the interface view, first you're supposed to be in the system view. We'll see it later. So I can generalize that interface view is like the view that is a specific view. From the system view, we navigate to interface view. So it's like a specific view. And also the protocol view is a specific view, because once you are in a system view is where you can navigate to the protocol view. We'll see these views later. The protocol view actually is used to configure most of the routing protocol parameters. The topology that we are going to configure this one, and we have put it to the workspace, and I've explained to you what is router, what is switch, and what is PC. So let's go direct to the configurations part, where we'll see how to do some configurations. First of all, I would like to start with some verification commands. Yeah, once you do any configurations, you should ensure that the configuration is in your device. So there are different commands that will help you to prove yourself that the commands that you put into that devices is take the effect. There is a command which is called display version. We have seen it to know or to see the version of the device. There is a command which is called display current configurations to see the commands that are in RAM. There is a command that is called display this. We see it. There is a command that is called display safety configurations, display local, display interface brief, display interface, and then you specify the interface name, display history command, display VLAN, display VLAN summary, display MAC address, display status, and display IP routing table. We'll see them later. If not in this session, then the later sessions, because I'll be uploading the sessions at least one session in a week. So we'll see these commands later, these display commands. We cannot manage all of them in this session. There are other commands that are very important to know them, the quit command and return commands. We have said that we should know how to navigate the views. We say that we have user view, and then we say that we have system view, interface view, and protocol view. What if you are in a system view and you want to return back, or you want to go back to the user view? Actually, you should know that the user view is the view that starts, and then you put a certain command we'll see later to navigate to the system view. So if you want to move back to the user view, the command that you'll use is quit. So you just issue the command quit and you will go back to the user view. Likewise, there is another command which is called return command. Return commands help you to move from any mode that you are to the user view. So for example, if you are in interface view, you can just navigate directly to the user view by issue the command return. If you issue the command quit, it will just move you one step backward. So if you are in interface view and you want to return back to the user view, once you apply a quit command, it will just move you to the system view, and then you apply again the quit command should be in user view. So you just need to apply quit 2 times, but instead you can apply only one return and you will be there at user view. The another command that we should discuss is undo command, the negate command. Once you misconfigure something and you want to remove it in a RAM, you just put undo before that commands. For example, if you have misconfigured the IP address, you just go to the interface that you put that IP address, and then you put the undo command, you put that IP address. That IP address will be removed to that interface and you will have a chance to put another IP address. Another thing that we'll see is to configure a device name, and we'll see the verification command C is display current configuration. Another thing that we'll see is clock settings. We just configure the clock to a device. It's very important to configure clock, especially once we are troubleshooting, because the logs that we'll be receiving, if they do not have a correct time, we will not be sure at what particular time the error occurs or the fault occurs. The other thing which will configure it is CLI header messages. These are some messages that display a certain statements, or just we write a certain displacement, a certain statement just to mean something. For example, if we want to display a message that will just tell anyone who is logging in your device to be careful, we just write be careful. We see how to write these commands. Another thing that we'll see is interface configuration, actually to put interface parameters like IP address, description, to undo auto negotiation if we want to put things like speed, things like duplex mode. And another thing, port type. So we can configure port type either hybrid or access. We will see that issue later once we deal with something which is called VLAN. Another thing is to create loopback interfaces. Loopback interface, they are very important for the issue of management and the protocols. These are logical interfaces. They do not become down whenever the device is up. So if the device is running, this interface will remain running. They are different from the physical interface, because the physical interface can be down, the router is learning. But this one, once the router is learning, they will be up always. And we like them because, for example, if we are troubleshooting a device, or we are testing IP connectivity of the device, we can test using the IP address that we configured in physical interface. But then if that physical interface is down, we can't verify that our device has connectivity to where we are, to the device that we are running a command to test connectivity. But if the router is running, it means the loopback interface is up. We can test the connectivity using the IP address that we have issued to the loopback interface. Another thing is to save our configurations. When we are performing commands, they are just saved in RAM, and we know RAM is random memory, is volatile memory actually. Is the memory that saves our configurations, but once the device is part of, all those configuration will be deleted. So in order to make sure that our configuration is still in the device, we have to save them to another location or to another memory, which is called non-volatile RAM, NVRAM. And the command to do that is called save. We just issue it to the user view. In order to see the commands that that we save them in non-volatile, we just issue the command display save the configurations, or we can run the command compare configurations. The command compare configurations just just tell us the configurations, or it compares the configurations that are in RAM and the configurations that are in non-volatile RAM. Yeah, and another thing is to restart the device. There are some operations in order to take effect, you need to restart your device. And the command is reboot. So we just issue the command reboot to the user view, and the device will start booting again. But make sure that you have saved the configurations, because if you reboot your device and your configuration are in RAM, they will all be deleted. You won't see any configurations or any commands. There is another thing which is called to delete the configuration in non-volatile RAM. The command that will be ensuring is reset save the configurations. And actually we perform this command at user view. Another thing that you should understand is that we said that we can remote access our device, but any communication in computer networking require IP address, and switch is layer 2 device. Its interface does not allow us to put IP address. So in order to put IP address, we just use the logical interface by running the command interface VLAN if. So we create the logical interface. We'll see later how to create this interface, and we create this interface by using the idea or by using the concept of VLAN. We'll see later what is VLAN. And if we want to access our switch remotely, we pass through different networks. We give it a default gateway. We'll see later what is the default gateway. Another thing is that we have said there are two user interface: console user interface and VTY user interface. This interface should have some commands. For example, the commands like the password issues, to put their password so that not anyone can go to that interface and do some modifications in our devices. So we put those passwords. We see some other commands that will be ensuring to these user interfaces. Another thing that you will be doing, especially in lab, is to test the IP connectivity. Once we have cabled our devices, we have good topology, we have do some configurations, we should make sure that the devices are communicating to test the so-called IP connectivity. We use a utility which is called ping or Leslie. We'll see these commands later and I'll explain them deeply. Yeah, another thing that we'll see is packet capturing. And packet capturing will use a software which is called Wireshark. And something which is very important is to know that these communications between the devices is happening because there is something which is called database or table. So there are different tables that we will see later when we do our lab. There is MAC address table, there is app page table, there is routing table. All these tables are very important for communication to take place. And the last thing is to see how to import and export commands. So this is also an important stuff for lab. For example, if you have configured your device and you wish to save your configuration into your PC, you just right click to your device and choose export. You will see that it's require you to choose the directory and save those commands. And also you can do the opposite, which is called importing. If you have the commands in, for example, a text file, you can import it into your device by using this feature which is called importing. So I guess you all understand what I intended to present to you. Yeah, this is the serial parts, and I'll do another part which is a lab part. So for this section, let's end here, and if you have any doubts, you can just write it in the comments. And if it happens that there is something that you find very useful, don't hesitate or feel free to share with others. So thank you a lot, and let's meet to another section which I'll be explaining or will be doing some configuration of this parts or of this serial parts. So thanks again.